The governor's plan to reduce property tax increases relies on money that is already yours.
This is actually coming from our own money. They're paying us back with our own money.
Police admit mishandling a case where a beating was caught on camera. Now we can see and hear the bogus explanation they bought. And a crash paused Colorado's nighttime firefighting with planes. The state's ready to try again with different aircraft.
It's not like you go to the used car lot and just kind of, fly it off the lot.
That's tonight on Next. There were two shootings outside of Denver public school buildings on February 13th. Attention has largely centered that day and since on East, where a student named Luis Garcia was shot and killed. Far fewer headlines focus on what happened outside Emily Griffith High School that day, where two people were shot and injured. Today, we learned that investigators believe the shooter was a teenager who had been inside that school with a gun moments before. And just hours later this afternoon, we learned that that teenager died last month in another shooting in Lakewood. Court documents say Denver police arrested 18-year-old Saint Wake the day of the shooting outside Emily Griffith. Investigators had surveillance video showing Wake inside the lobby of the school before the confrontation outside. 17-year-old and an adult were shot. Investigators said it was not clear if Wake shot both of them or just one of them. As we were gathering information today, we learned that that suspect in the Emily Griffith shooting, Saint Wake, the 18-year-old, was killed in a shooting April 6th in Lakewood. An exchange of gunfire between three people. Two of them, including Wake, died. One thing that we have been trying to learn is whether DPS let Wake come back to class following the shooting. The district's draft of its new safety plan does not include much that is new. No change, for instance, to the discipline matrix, which allows students charged with violent crimes, including attempted murder, to come back to class. The safety plan does say that it's individual schools that should decide whether they want armed officers on campus. Hundreds of people in the DPS community have reached out to us with information about safety and security within DPS. You can email tips to next@9news.com, or you can send me an encrypted text message securely via Signal at 303-871-1841. Democratic Governor Jared Polis' favorite catchphrase is saving Coloradans money. His latest idea twists that term in a whole new way. Polis is pitching a plan to keep property taxes from spiking quite as much as they would by using some of your money that would have been refunded to you anyway. Polis wants to take $1 from your wallet, put it in your pocket, and tell you that he saved you money. Here's Politics Guy Marshall Zellinger.
Your property tax bill is going up. The issue is, will it go up a dizzying amount or just a jaw-dropping amount?
Homeowners in our state face record increases if we don't act.
State lawmakers have 1 week to pass a bill that would show up on your November ballot asking your permission to limit the increase of your property tax bill, but by using your money to do so. Here is what would show up on your ballot. The proposal would use state surplus. Hang on, let me fix this. The proposal would use your TABOR refund money to make sure the entities that rely on your property taxes don't miss out. Entities like Cherry Creek Schools, RTD, and South Suburban Parks and Rec in Arapahoe County, and RTD and West Metro Fire in Jefferson County. Any reduction to your property tax increase will impact these districts.
We have been meeting as a property tax group with the counties and the cities and the schools and the realtors and the assessors, treasurers, and it's kind of a long list.
Ann Terry is the executive director of the Special District Association of Colorado. These, the special districts that get funded by property taxes. Terry said despite being part of the process since January, she found out about this proposal yesterday.
This feels like it was done in a vacuum, and that vacuum left us out. And when I say us, I mean all of us in the local government world.
Here is some quick math based on an example I've shown before. The tax bill for a $500,000 home this year was $2,700. If that home went up in value 33%, next year's tax bill increases $733. If the legislature passes this late bill and voters say yes, next year's tax bill still goes up, just not as much. $567. Some of the difference between the two will still be paid to local governments using your TABOR refund money.
It gives the governor and legislators some headlines to say they're trying to ease property tax relief, but it's coming from money that would otherwise come to us anyway.
Michael Fields, who we've talked with several times, is pursuing a ballot issue of his own to limit property tax increases to 3% each year.
I think it has to be a cap, because the cap is what is the biggest deal, because it's the only thing that ensures it doesn't keep happening and keep happening.
under his proposal, which hasn't qualified for the ballot yet, that $2,700 property tax bill from this year in that home example would only increase $83, regardless of how much the value of your home increased. But that also means less for all of those districts that expect your property tax money. So you're going to say, oh, $83, that's great. But then you'll know that the school districts, the cities, counties, fire district, they would be impacted too. It's possible both could show up on your November ballot as competing, but both could still pass as competing measures on the same topic.
So Fields, the conservative activist, is talking about a 3% cap on property tax increases. The renters are watching this going, where's my cap on rent? That, of course, would be called rent control, which they debated at the state legislature this year and voted down.
And there was already concern at this committee hearing today on this bill that renters their rent will go up because the landlords will pass it on to the renters, and the renters are actually funding these districts with their TABOR refund money through no fault of their own. They're not getting the TABOR refund money back, and they're kind of getting hit twice, once with the tax bill or from the landlord bill, and then not getting your TABOR refund. So I don't know if that's going to get worked out, but that's one of the complaints right now about this bill.
There's all kinds of things in government and finance that work to redistribute wealth, but this is a redistribution in part from renters to property owners, which is really interesting in this day and age. All right, Marshall, thank you. The governor's push to densify zoning across Colorado to increase more housing stock. It might not be dead after all. We've told you how centrist Democrats in the state Senate gutted that bill. Well, now some House Democrats are trying to revive the plan that would allow more housing to be built in more places, even if city leaders don't like it. The governor's biggest priority this legislative session was fiercely opposed by local leaders, both Republicans and Democrats, who worried about the loss of local control over zoning. That's a city and county thing in our state. So the governor's bill got watered down by moderate Democrats into basically just like a study. But now more progressive Democrats in the House are bringing back the ideas of lifting local restrictions on accessory dwelling units and increasing housing density along transit.
Everything that we have done with respect to trying to enhance the bill and restore its key parts has been in conjunction with the Senate and our partners over there. So we're certainly cognizant of our vote count, and we're keeping close track of it.
We were grateful that there was a path from the Senate to the House, and we feel incredibly lucky that we get to build back and put the integrity of the bill and infuse that once again.
Capitol it's a very echoey building. It's got that shape to it. The timing is also working against this bill. Even if the House signs off on the amendments, has to go back to the Senate with less than a week left in the session. Democratic Senate President Steve Fenberg told the Colorado Sun that would be a challenge. So Pueblo police are now reacting to the viral video of two people beating a homeless man during a citizen's arrest. Police are recommending that the father and son doing the beating be charged with assault. We got a hold of body camera footage that leads to new questions about how police investigated this case. Doug Cullison and his son told officers that the man that they beat up was actually bloody from falling on the ground. We should say that some people are going to find the video disturbing.
You know how he got the blood up? Was that already on there?
So he was trying to resist it a little bit, and my son right here, he must have heard too that he came up and helped put him to the ground.
So that was from falling to the ground?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it is literally wink, wink, nod, nod stuff there on the body camera video. Here's what actually happened. Surveillance footage from nearby business shows how the victim, Alex Montoya, was followed and attacked. He was suspected of punching a teacher at a nearby school. Police were aware of this surveillance video, but they said that they couldn't get the video to play, and they didn't follow up until the video went viral elsewhere. Pueblo PD admits mishandling this case. There's an internal investigation while prosecutors consider whether to file assault charges for the beating. Colorado is not ready to give up on nighttime firefighting. The first pilot to try it died in a crash in 2021. Our Mark Salinger explores the state's push to return to firefighting in the dark with helicopters.
Fighting fires comes with risk. Fighting fires from the sky at night comes with even more risk.
It adds more risk and complexity to it, so we only do it in certain situations when we have a really high, amount of values at risk.
Vaughn Jones is with the Colorado Division of Fire Prevention and Control. The state hopes to expand its nighttime helicopter firefighting capabilities. And this will help. It's called a Firehawk helicopter. It's being built right now and should be delivered this month. After lots of testing and training, it'll be put in the mix to help at night using night vision goggles sometime this year or next.
Some of the advantages are cooler temperatures, higher relative humidity. The fire behaviors have diminished a little bit.
But the risk is so high that Colorado has only fought a single fire using helicopters at night since the program got the go-ahead several years ago. The state already has 2 helicopters stationed in Canyon City and Montrose. The more advanced Firehawk will help around the state. In 2021, a private aviation company contracting with the state tried using a fixed-wing airplane to fight a fire at night for the first time ever in the state. Just minutes after takeoff, the plane crashed into a mountain in Estes Park. Using planes to fight wildfires at night likely won't happen again anytime soon.
No program exists for us, and at least as of now, we have no plans to add that.
When night falls, the helicopters can still fly. A risk for sure, but one that could save lives.
So in order to send these helicopters up at night to fight a fire, the pilots must first fly over the fire several times during the day to get a sense of what the terrain looks like in the light. They can't just launch when a fire starts and start fighting in the dark in the middle of the night. That just won't work, Kyle.
We know, though, there were similar precautions taken by the fixed-wing pilot who went up on that fire near Estes. I mean, you were there that night. You talked with the pilot before he went out on that landmark flight. Do we ever know what happened?
Yeah, it was an awful night. We were there talking to him as he took off. We were one of the last people that he talked to. And then he crashed just a couple of minutes later. The NTSB is still investigating. At this point, they released a preliminary report that said that wind and perhaps pilot error played a role in it, but they haven't said what the final cause of the crash was.
All right. Mark Salinger, thank you.
Tomorrow is a crucial day for the plan to bring millions of gallons of oil through Colorado by train. It's been a year since the Supreme Court struck down abortion rights.
Colorado is becoming the place of last resort for many, many other places, and that's not a sustainable situation.
Colorado is seeing more patients crossing state lines when their lives are in danger. That's next.
Tomorrow, environmental groups fighting the plan to transport millions of barrels of oil through Colorado will get to make their case in federal court. Conservationists are asking a federal appeals court to block the proposed Uinta Basin Railway project. It would move crude oil through Utah and Colorado, take it down to refineries on the Gulf Coast. These groups say that hauling all of that oil through the Colorado River corridor increases the risk of fires, oil spills. Some Democrats in our congressional delegation have a separate effort trying to block the project. Senator Michael Bennet and Congressman Joe Neguse want the federal government to conduct an environmental study first. And Democratic State Attorney General Phil Weiser has asked the Department of Transportation to withhold federal funding for the project.
After a day in the 70s, the clouds quickly racing in, and we have the potential for seeing a few scattered showers and thunderstorms this afternoon into this evening. 73 officially out at DIA, more 70s off to the eastern plains with 50s and 60s up into the high country. While high pressure is around, we're still tracking that southerly flow that's ushering in some moisture. So we have seen some scattered showers and thunderstorms up in the mountains, through the foothills, a little bit of lightning out there. Most of the action is just to the west of the I-25 corridor. However, a little bit of light rainfall just beginning to kind of cruise in around Ken Carroll. It'll push across the Denver area within the next hour. Look for some light rain showers or rumble of thunder. That's going to be about it. Tomorrow morning, we kick off the day with some sunshine here in the city. As we fast forward throughout the afternoon, there will be a few showers out there, but they'll be hit or miss across the state. Not looking like we'll see much here in Denver. If anything, just an increase of the clouds later tomorrow afternoon. Across far eastern Colorado, that's going to be the spot that we're watching out for just a marginal risk for seeing severe storms, large hail, damaging winds. All will be in the cards for our friends out east. Tomorrow here in town, we'll be looking at our warmest day of the week. Upper 70s, low 80s for most of eastern Colorado, with 50s and 60s up in the mountains. We will be tracking a better chance for storms coming our way on Thursday. We dry out Friday, and right now we'll be tracking a few isolated storms for the weekend and into early next week.
Abortion bans in nearby states keep turning up the pressure on Colorado's providers.
Their schedules are hectic and busy, and that calendars are filling up quickly.
And it means they're seeing sicker patients with more complicated cases. Next.
There are literal complications with Colorado's effort to provide abortion services to people from neighboring states with abortion bans. A year to the day since the Supreme Court's decision on Roe first leaked, providers here say that they are seeing sicker patients facing more serious complications. The Cobalt Abortion Fund is a donor-funded organization helping women access abortion services in Colorado. They say in the first 3 months of this year, they've served more than 400 patients, most from out of state. Coordinating travel for those patients can be expensive, and it takes time. Cobalt says patients are seeing long delays. Clinics are now dealing with patients arriving more stressed, sicker, and later on in their pregnancies.
What's happening in many states is people are being pushed further into their pregnancies before they're able to access an abortion or before they know that there might be something going on with their pregnancy. They are delayed by backups. Colorado is becoming the place of last resort for many, many other places, and that's not a sustainable situation. We need to do better.
Obviously, backups at clinics delay care for in-state patients as well. Cobalt told us that they're hoping that Colorado's new law protecting abortion providers from out-of-state investigations might convince new medical professionals to come to Colorado and help alleviate long waits at existing clinics. We'll finish with your feedback next. Nuggets coach Michael Malone's slight injury turns out to be the most Colorado thing we saw today.
You going on the injury report?
Me? No. You should see the other guy.
So he's got that little scar on his head, that little scratch on his head. Apparently, according to the Nuggets telecast, he picked it up playing pickleball. That is a pickleball injury, America's fastest growing sport. He's still making time for it, even in the playoffs. So while Denver is shutting down courts because they're noisy, we obviously know that there's somebody inside the Nuggets organization who's a fan of pickleball. We reached out to Coach Malone to find out how he feels about the pickleball crackdown in the home of the Nuggets. He didn't get back to us, but that's cool. He's busy. He's got a lot going on. Ashley writes in to accurately point out that one of the reasons why Colorado is facing the property tax increases that we're seeing is because voters repealed the Gallagher Amendment a couple of years back. Ashley says, I guess we shouldn't have repealed Gallagher. I told people it would increase property tax and in turn increase rent. Now you want to impact everybody's TABOR to fix the problem you created and brainwash voters into repealing. I'm not exactly certain if you've pinpointed my role in this, Ashley. I don't recall any of that. I think maybe we just told you what was happening. But you are right that Gallagher has a big impact on this. Bob in Boulder writes in to say you addressed the renters being hit with possible increases in rent. What about the homeowners on fixed incomes? They are possibly being taxed out of owning. That certainly is something that the state is talking about. When we talk about the governor's plan to take $40,000 off the value of the evaluation of a property to lower the property taxes, that applies to $1 million home the same way it does to a $300,000 home. So it would have more of a benefit to folks who are more financially stressed. I'll see you next time.